Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again it is Sunday. Well, actually it's Monday. It's even Monday night. And the reason I'm filming this video instead of on Sundays, I have been on vacation. I'm just getting back and making videos again. But I'll go ahead and say it like normal. It's Sunday, and that means it's time for the Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week, a weekly vlog that I put out where I ask you, as my viewers and subscribers, about something that deals with guns, gun culture, politics, the current events, the news, or something fun like EDC that I want to get your thoughts and opinions on. And this week's question is a doozy, and it's one that I was hoping I would never have to make. But last week, the House of Representatives of the United States Congress passed H.R. 1808, the assault weapons ban of 2022. Now, this ban is not like the one that existed from 1994 to 2004. This thing virtually bans everything, and I mean everything. It's not just AR-15s and rifles with one cosmetic feature that they deem as a military feature, but it bans any semi-automatic weapon that can hold a magazine that contains more than 10 rounds of ammunition and just simply looks like a fully automatic weapon. So for example, your Glock 17, you think, it'd be fine. Well, guess what? There's a gun out there called the Glock 18. It's a fully automatic Glock 17. So that means the Glock 17 is banned. Yeah, that's it. It literally bans everything that's on store shelves today. And the thing that really ticks me off is the politicians have the audacity to come to us and say, well, we exempt 2,200 different weapons that don't fall under this ban that you can have. We're just banning the ones that we don't like. And you're like, okay, that's a lot of weapons that you're exempting from this law. And normally when you think of something like an exemption, it means otherwise it would fall under the ban, but because they've exempted it, you're perfectly fine. Well, you start going through these makes and models, and you're like, well, most of these are companies that don't even exist anymore, or models that haven't been made for a long time, and oh wow, thank you so much for exempting that single shot 10 gauge shotgun. We're even going to find 10 gauge and nobody can even handle that cartridge. Well, I know there's people out there that can, but that's not even a practical gun. But don't worry, it's exempted. Why? Because they're so nice to us. Oh, look, they let us have a single shot 22 rifle. Oh, they're so nice. They've exempted that gun because otherwise it'd fall under the ban. Well, no, it wouldn't fall under the ban, but they've exempted it because they want to say and show how nice they are to us while they literally ban everything. Now, I know that all of us know that this law is unconstitutional. And that's not even just my opinion or my wishful thinking. We know in the latest New York Pistol and Rifle Association case versus Bruin, the big Supreme Court case that was decided earlier this summer, it pretty much says that laws like this cannot stand. You cannot ban classes of weapons that are in common use for daily purposes, and that is what this ban does. Now, the real question is, what's going to happen to this law when it heads over to the Senate? And right now, the United States Senate is split 50-50. 50% Democrats, 50% Republicans. And that means that any vote can be decided on by the Vice President of the United States, who is the President of the Senate, and currently that is Kamala Harris. Now, of course, we all know how she would vote. She would vote on the Democrat side, making it 51-50. However, the Senate isn't just majority rule on a basic vote. They have to overcome a vote to end debate, which is what they call the filibuster rule, which means it needs 60 votes to end debate. So they can debate the bill all they want, and then when they try to close debate, you gotta have 60 votes. And this is where a lot of bills die on the vine. Now, that means that we would need 10 Republicans to close debate. Now, I don't think we're going to get that many defectors, and I don't even know if we would get all of the Democrats voting for this bill. But I was curious what you all think based on what's happening politically in the country to this bill when it reaches the Senate and what the probabilities are that it would ever make it to Joe Biden's desk. So, with all that said, let's find out what this week's question exactly is. This past week, we saw the U.S. House of Representatives pass H.R. 1808, the assault weapons ban of 2022, by the slimmest of margins. I know some people are confused or do not understand how laws are made in the Congress, and as such, this bill still has a long way to go before it could ever become law. But that is what I'm asking you about today. How concerned are you that this egregious bill that infringes upon our Second Amendment rights will stand a chance in the Senate? Is it DOA, dead on arrival, or will the Democrats and weak-kneed Republicans cave and try to pass it? Does it even stand a chance with the 60 votes needed to end a filibuster? And so, as I mentioned in the question, there's so much that has to happen before this thing even gets the possibility of a floor vote. It has to go to a committee. It has to be debated in the committee. It has to be voted on the committee. Then, if it passes out of the committee, the majority leader of the Senate, who is Charles Schumer of New York, can decide whether even to take it up for a vote or not, or even have it go to the floor for debate. Then debate has to close. Then they have to vote on it. And that's where it can pass by 51 votes. But it might not even get there, because if you're a Republican, why would you vote to close debate knowing you're going to lose? But we also know there's a few weak-kneed Republicans in there, ones that want to virtue signal, the ones that really aren't conservatives. We call them rhinos, Republicans in name only. But the good thing about the Second Amendment is that it is a right for all Americans. Right now, we seem to think that it is divided between conservatives and liberals. However, I know liberals in my personal life that are very pro-gun, and I want to believe that there are pro-gun Democrats even in the U.S. Senate. And as we're coming closer to midterm elections and a lot of them are up for a vote, they might not want to tick off their constituencies. So, let's see what you guys think and where this bill is going to go in the Senate. And with over 1,200 votes as of me filming this video, we have, I think the bill will pass the Senate committee and the Senate. 10%. It will pass the committee but not get 60 votes to close debate. 31%. I think it will get a committee hearing but never get voted on. 18%. It is DOA, dead on arrival, and it will go nowhere. 39%. And something else, explain in the comments, 2%. I think the good news of this is the fact that the groupthink of all the people that watch my channel seem to think that this is not going to go anywhere. And that's also the consensus of many people that follow lawmaking here in the United States and look at the political landscape of the U.S. Senate. Everyone says this bill is going nowhere. But the further it goes along these tracks, the more worried and concerned many of us become, because all it takes is a few more things to happen and maybe another event to occur, and you get people to switch sides on their votes and what they've said in the past, and they go, okay, I'll go ahead and vote for it because something has to be done. It can be very anxious. It can be very disconcerting to a lot of us. But a lot of you, if we take the middle 3 votes in there, say it's not going to pass. Well, let's go through each one of these. I think the bill will pass the Senate committee and the Senate. I was honestly really surprised that 10% of people voted for this, because as I said, it really doesn't look like this bill is going to go anywhere this far. It has so many steps to get here, and there's so many obstacles for it to even get that final floor vote for passage. But of course, people are really concerned because people don't trust politicians. And sometimes these politicians, based on what they're influenced by, whether it be money or the fact that they want to be popular in their own social circles, or maybe some of them aren't even up for election and are retiring. And this is like one last chance for them to give a middle finger to some constituencies that they represent in their states. So there's a lot at play here. And of course, there's always a chance anything can happen, but I definitely don't think it's going to go that far. But a lot of you, actually more than I thought would, actually think something could happen. Then we have, it will pass committee but not get the 60 votes to close debate. Now this is the one that I actually would have voted for, because that judiciary hearing is another spectacle to put on the news. And all these people on the Judiciary Committee, which is the committee that will debate this, will want to go on the media and news, get the interviews, show how anti-gun they are and how they're trying to protect your children, even though they're thinking, I can disarm the U.S. population, because when we really do the evil and bad stuff, the American population will not be able to fight back. That's my honest belief. But this is the one that I would have voted for, but it wasn't the majority. Then we have, I think it will get a committee hearing but never get voted on. Now normally they're not going to bring this up to the committee if they don't think they're going to have the votes to pass it. It can be submitted to the committee, but the committee chair can actually look at this and go, is it feasible? Is it worth putting all this political capital and the spectacle on if it fails? And all they would need is one Democrat to go, I can't vote for this because I have to get reelected. Or maybe they're actually pro-Second Amendment and go, this bill goes way too far. So it's a huge gamble for them to put all this investment into trying to pass it in the committee and it go nowhere. Then we have, it is dead on arrival and will go nowhere. Now, as I said, this is the one that got the majority of votes, and probably, I guess, most likely is what's going to happen because we're so close to these midterm elections. And the threshold to get this thing voted on is so unbelievably high. To get 10 Republicans, you might get a Susan Collins, you might get a Mitt Romney to change sides. You're not going to get 8 or 9 others to do the same. It's just not going to happen. And as I said, we even have a safety net beyond that, because we know this law is unconstitutional and would immediately be appealed to the circuit courts and the Supreme Court and most likely get overturned. Then we have something else explained in the comments, only 2%. And I think the people that voted on this and commented below pretty much said, well, there's going to be some type of backroom deals and shady deals where they're going to suspend the rules of the Senate, which I don't think is really going to happen because this is just too hot potato of an issue. And they wouldn't do that because that definitely looks like tyranny. Even though what they're doing is tyrannical, they're trying to do it through the very open means and the usual rules of the Senate. So they don't want to look like they took away a constitutional right and no one got to see the debates, no one got to have anything to say, no Republican was able to say anything against it. That would not look very well at all. That truly would be tyrannical. Now, is it possible? Well, anything is possible, and of course we should always be on the lookout for it and always worried, but it is very unlikely. So that's my thoughts on this. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It might go to committee, but it's not going to get a final floor vote. But let's see what you guys had to say with the top rated comments of this week. And with the top rated comment of this week, we have Joe Morgan, who says, I find it hard to believe it would ever pass. And then I remember that stranger things have happened and worse things have happened, so I remain optimistic that it won't pass, but planning in case it does and doing everything I can to make it not happen. I just don't know anymore. Yeah, you know, we live in a crazy world. You look at this and go, there's not going to pass. But oh my gosh, the state of politics in America is crazy, and how one side is trying to upend everything, change the world just because they have power and this is their one opportunity. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. And I know I lose a little bit of sleep over it because even though I think we would win in the end, especially in the courts, it's just one of those things that we'd all have to worry about, we'd have to deal with, and it would be a nationwide thing. It would be a complete calamity. Then we have Litzine Zoots, who says, this is a weird Rod Sterling time for Congress. I never thought red flag laws would pass, but they did. This is curry the voter time. Those in power don't really care about us for the most part. They only care about staying in power, so they have to guess which way to jump. I hope everyone on this channel is giving them feedback on that question. And that is a great thing to bring up, because if you don't want this to pass, you need to make sure that you are contacting your senators. Contacting your House of Representatives and your members of Congress isn't going to help. You got to contact your senators, and every state has 2 of them. And even if you know they're going to vote for it, make your voices heard. Contact them respectfully. You can email them and you can contact their offices by the phone. Do both. Tell them, do not vote on this. Make your voices heard. That's the only thing we can do right now, especially when it comes to those squishes in the middle on both sides. Then we have Let's Go Brandon, who says, unfortunately, we have too many anti-freedom people in the Senate. Remember how the last gun control bill passed a few weeks ago? Yeah, and that is a point of concern, because as I said, all it takes is for one event to happen. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I can see this bill coming up for some type of committee vote and all of a sudden something happening. After all, we got schools going back into session. That's all we need right now. And then they'll all be saying we have to do something. And we all know what that do something is, and that is take away our rights. But as I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the timing of all these events sometimes is very, very suspicious. Then we have Keith Tate, who says, I'm not sure if it will get a committee hearing or not. I think it all depends on what Schumer thinks will reflect best on himself and the Democratic Party. I do not, however, believe that it will get over the 60-vote threshold to pass the Senate. That being said, we as citizens who wish to maintain our rights need to remain aware and make our senators understand that they are there to represent us and uphold the Constitution of the United States. Now, he makes a great point. Now, one of the greatest tragedies of our constitutional system was the passage of the 17th Amendment. Originally, senators were supposed to represent the interests of the states, not the interests of the people. That was for the House of Representatives. And so the different legislatures would send their senators. Essentially, they would be representing the state governments. Now, we know how conservative and how pro-gun so many states are. And if that was the case, you wouldn't have as many anti-gun senators that we do. When they passed the 17th Amendment, it upended everything. It essentially made some voters in some states more powerful, because with a direct election of the Senate, it changes that balance of power. Instead of the senators voting in the interest of the states, they're now voting in the interests of their party or the people. And now some people are saying, well, that's great. But if you really look at what the founders intended and the Great Compromise, that was what it was all about, to make sure that the smaller states had more representation in the Senate while everyone had equal representation per capita in the House of Representatives. And that 17th Amendment did so much damage to our constitutional republic. But still, because of the way our system is now, contact your senators like I said before. And then finally, we have a dead weight. It's nice to be hopeful, but you really have to assume and prepare for the worst in this situation. Might as well get whatever stuff you've had your eye on or needed lately. You know, and that's kind of the panic buyer in me too. Right now I look at this and go, well, even though I think it would be overturned in the courts, what can I get now? Because if this thing even gets close to a floor vote, if you haven't picked it up yet, it is gone. The prices of everything will go through the roof. Another silly thing about this bill is it has the grandfather clause, essentially saying that if you have it now, you can keep it forever. Well, there's already so many rifles and assault weapons and more magazines out there that can hold 11 rounds or more that the horse has already left the barn. These things are not going to go away literally for centuries. So this bill would actually do nothing. Well, it would do nothing until they have to pass the next piece, which is mandatory confiscation. But we all know that is the end goal of these anti-gunners. And that's why we always have to be vigilant and always on the lookout, and why we always have to band together and support the pro-Second Amendment organizations that you like. As I said, I don't support the NRA because I think they're corrupt, but I support other organizations like the Second Amendment Foundation, the American Suppressor Association. But you guys can support whoever you want. But we have to band together to file these lawsuits in the case of something like this passing. We can do it if we band together. That's what the anti-gunners do. They get together because they're for something. A lot of times the Second Amendment people are just kind of lackadaisical. They just kind of sit back until the law passes, then they fight it. They're always being reactive instead of proactive. Anti-gunners are proactive. Pro-Second Amendment people are reactive, and that's why we lose. And we can't be reactive, we have to be proactive. So, that is the Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week. It looks like you guys agree with me. It's probably not going to go anywhere in the Senate, and then after the midterms, everything gets reset, and hopefully pro-Second Amendment legislators are going to take both houses of Congress, which it kind of looks like that is a big possibility, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed on that, and then we won't have to deal with this for another 2 years, and then hopefully we'll have a different president 2 years after that, and there will be a pro-gun president as well. But that has yet to be seen, and that is an eternity in politics. So that's all we can hope for and what we have to work for and look forward to. So as I said, that's the Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week. If you want to participate in next week's poll, please go to the community tab of my YouTube channel. I will post a link in the description. Go over there and vote, see what the poll is about, comment, and like other people's comments so we can get the top rated comments of the week. And once again, I'm sorry this was not out on a Sunday, but rather a Monday. I still hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, thanks for the discussion, and thanks for watching.